There was daylight in the sky, but none in the streets, and the lamps were lit. Boys of his own age strolled on the pavements in crowds of 3 or 4, girls walked in couples, groups of both sexes gossiped and giggled by cafe doors. Thaw felt inferior and conspicuous. Overheard whispers seemed to mock the absent look he wore to disarm criticism. Overheard laughter seemed caused by the upright hair he never brushed or combed. He walked quickly into the streets with fewer shops, where people moved in enigmatic units. His confidence grew with the darkness. His face took on a resolute, slightly wolfish look. His feet hit the pavements firmly. He strode past couples, embracing in close mouths, feeling isolated by a stern purpose which put him outside merely human satisfactions. This purpose was hardly one he could have explained. After all, he was just walking, not walking to anywhere, but sometimes he thought he was searching for the key. The key was small and precise, yet it was in its use completely general and completely particular. Once found, it would solve every problem. Asthma, homework, shyness before Kate Caldwell, fear of atomic war. The key would make everything painful, useless and wrong become pleasant, harmonious and good. Since he thought of it as something that could be contained in 1 or 2 sentences, he had looked for it on the public libraries, but seldom in the science or philosophy shelves. The key had to be recognised at once and by heart, not led up to and proved by reasoning. Nor could it be an article of religion, since its discovery would make churches and clergy unnecessary. Nor was it poetry, for poems were too finished and perfect to finish and perfect anything themselves. The key was so simple and obvious that it had been continually overlooked and was less likely to be a specialist triumphant conclusion than to be mentioned casually by someone innocent and dull. So he had searched among the biographies and the autobiographies, correspondences, histories and travel books, in footnotes to outdated medical works and the indexes of Victorian natural histories. Recently, he had thought the key more likely to be found on a night walk through the streets, printed on a scrap of paper blown out of the rubble of a bomb factory, or whispered in a dark street by someone leaning suddenly out of a window. Tonight, he came to a piece of waste ground, a hill among tenements that had been suburban 20 years earlier. The black shape of it curved against the lesser blackness of the sky, and the yellow spark of a bonfire flickered just under the summit. He left the pallid gaslit street and climbed upwards, feeling coarse grass against his shoes and the occasional broken bricks. When he reached the fire, it had sunk to a few small flames among a heap of charred sticks and rags. He groped in the ground till he found some scraps of cardboard and paper and added them to the fire with a torn-up handful of withered grass. A tall flame shot up, and he watched it from outside the brightness of its cast. He imagined other people arriving one at a time and standing in a ring around the firelight. When 10 or 12 had assembled, they would hear a heavy thudding of wings. A black shape would pass overhead and land on the dark hilltop, and the messenger would walk down to them, bringing the key. The fire burned out, and he turned and looked down on Glasgow. Nothing solid could be seen, only lights. Street lamps like broken necklaces and bracelets of light. Neon cinema signs like silver and ruby brooches. The ruby, emerald and amber twinkle of traffic regulators, all glowing like treasure spilled on the blackness.